Hello, folks. Um, I realized some new information about reusable workflows in GitHub Actions, so I wanted to share that because they just ninja this in recently. Um, so if you looked at this a few months ago, they would tell you, here are the benefits of using reusable workflows versus composite actions, and basically was like 10 things good for reusable workflows, but the only con is you can't nest them, and then you can nest composite actions but you can't do these many things that you can do with usable workflows. So what they did is they added nesting to reusable workflows. So I don't think right now there's any reason to use anything but reusable workflows. So you'll if you just go to their website and just look for nested workflows, it will tell you that. But okay, here's how it works. Now, reusable workflows, when they first began, it made something like this possible. Let's just close this. So basically very little nothing, like basically nothing at your calling repository. Let's say you have so many repos, right? And you just make one quote unquote template, which is a reusable workflow, and then you refer to it, right? Like let's say we're referring to it. If it's a remote location, you just find your location, and that's going to be different for everyone. But everyone's going to have a remote location. That is not nothing special. And then you can tag the main. You can like you can refer to the main version, whatever, right? That's simple stuff. And that was there all along. Now, at the tail end, when you are calling the reusable workflow, that's fine and dandy. But what uh, let me just this part. But then this reusable workflow that you implement in this remote repository, right? That was basically tons and tons of copy pasted stuff. And if you had multiple usable workflows like this one on the left, you would maybe like copy this install step somewhere, copy the unit test stuff somewhere, and that's like paragraphs and paragraphs of copied YAML, right? So what they enable is basically you can now say like, hey, just grab this from another YAML file. Let's say like install, like this one. Everybody has an install. It's no big deal, right? Just this basic stuff and then just use that one, which is internal. I mean, it doesn't even have to be internal, right? But it is internal, and yeah, we are. I think you have to refer to it with this remote thing. Like you can, I don't know if you. I mean, I failed so many ways. I'm kind of afraid to try it anymore. But you refer to it, and it just uses that one over there, right? So that way you have calling repository, reusable workflow, and then your reusable workflow calling other reusable workflows, which helps you by, I mean, just makes these into Lego pieces. Like, so for instance, we have this uh, install and test here for like, let's say like a service. And then what happens when it's an application? Well, instead of, that and that and that, maybe you skip this one, you still have an install job. Now maybe unit test job is different. So you make a different one for the unit test job, but then your type check is always going to be the same. Lint is always going to be the same. Uh, E2E, that's another thing. Amazing Cypress workflow job, but there are five things you can do with Cypress, right? You can do component testing, you can test against local host. You can test against a deployment in a UI application. You can API test. Maybe you can locally test a service. But maybe that's going to be the most complex and varied version of things. And for now, you're just going to not do this cool thing. But I mean, I think that's you can also make that into a nested usable workflow. Um, the other cool thing is if you have like organizational secrets, right? Not stuff that's not specific to your calling workflow. Like maybe you have like usually people have, I mean, everybody has things like uh, Cypress record key and whatever, right? So like secrets that are only existing in your GitHub repository, and then you're just uh, like referring to those secrets over here. Okay. Uh, but then you have organizational secrets, right? Like that's in every repo. Like for instance, maybe you have some AWS stuff, right? Those can be inherited, right? So that basically helps you from not passing from the caller into the nested into the other one. So you just inherit in the intermediate call, and then you also inherit over at the edge call, and then you're all set, right? It's basically that. But I think it's TLDR. Um, reusable workflows can be nested. Don't use anything but reusable workflows. When you're doing the nesting, uh, it is very similar to how you would do it at the first calling YAML. Um, you just refer, you say, I am using that other thing, and it just works. If you got org secrets, take advantage of secrets inherit. That that's stuff that you don't specifically specify in your repo, but everything in the organization has it. So that's going to save you overall from implementing loads and loads of duplicated piecemeal code that's in YAML that doesn't need to be duplicated. Okay, so now you can just plug and play and just use your own pieces. I had to share that because I mean I think I heard about a tweet, but I wasn't looking into any CI, but the information is just if you just type nested reusable workflow, it's there, and then right under it, that's the information about passing secrets. So with those two pieces of knowledge, it enables you to save tons and tons of duplication within your reusable workflows, right? Because you may have very varieties. You may have some application services, you may have some packages, and you don't want to write the same install job in each one, right? You just write it in one location job, and then you just use that nested one in all your other places. Hopefully that makes sense.